Oh, I think it's a circle.
I disagree. It's a half a circle.
I think you're both wrong. I think it's a sphere.
Aw, it's a half circle.
No, it's not. It's a circle.
How can you say that?
It is not. How can you say it?
Each of us has the tendency to form an opinion from a personal point of view, to make a judgment from a single impression. But experience tells us that things aren't necessarily what they appear to be from one isolated viewpoint. It is possible to feel very certain of what you see and be wrong. Without the knowledge of many men from many ages, we would not realize that this is the same as this. A long-sought new vantage point enables man to see his world with increased clarity, to place it in better context with the universe that surrounds him. For education means applying what you know today to what you learn tomorrow. Attitudes and conclusions can be influenced by each new perspective.
And you recognize that the space program has been very important to make contributions in the areas of chemistry, ceramics, metals, fatigue, this type of thing. Also, the sample that they brought back from the moon has permitted us to determine the age of the moon, give us an entirely different figure. And by having it from two different mares, why this again is very valuable to us.
The perspectives of high school students preparing to enter a university are related directly to individual living environments. They are widely diverse. The prospective Ball State University student will soon be introduced to new values, different perspectives, from a roommate, from the legacies of a great man, from his own new reflections, and most important, from those who will direct him toward a personal exploration of the borderless world called higher education.
This course, like most in the university, has to ask a lot of questions if humanity chooses to survive. Some of the questions we have to ask relate to assassination. They may go a long way back, like why was Julius Caesar assassinated? Only because he was ambitious? I think there's more to it than that. If we can answer a question of that kind, we might also understand answers to other questions that are more contemporary, like why did Martin Luther King fall to an assassin's bullet in Memphis? Or one of the Kennedys, considerably earlier, or another of the Kennedys, not too long after. Why were these people killed? The answers aren't simple, but the answers are there. And I think we must ask them in an educational setting, not just for the sake of learning, but for the sake of survival.
Ball State professors do not ask that students develop carbon copy impressions of their own thinking. They are concerned more with encouraging a desire to learn than with providing instruction. They borrow ideas from other persons, add their own perception, and pass the baton of education on to a new student generation, hoping that their thoughts will find continued growth in the minds of others. If he accepts the challenge, the student's perspectives continue to change, for change is the only reality. Assumed truths often become false when exposed to enlightenment.
Now, if you would come up to this composition and look at it from very closely, let's say 2 inches, and you start looking at it from the bottom, and then you come up and you look from the top down, and when you start to draw it, depending on the distance you're looking at, your finalized drawing is going to change as far as the proportions are concerned due to the fact that you are either closer or farther away from it, and also from the angle on which you're looking at it. If you're looking from here, of course, you're going to get a different view and a different perspective than if you would look at it, let's say, from a couple of inches.
echo or not, accept or discover, other views and the views of others. There are thousands of perspectives at Ball State. Each is important, individually important, to faculty and administrators. To counselors, and to those concerned with financial assistance. Education is being made available to a wide range of economic levels through jobs, scholarships, and loans, tailored to specific needs, stretching as far as funds permit. There are more students on the university payroll than faculty and staff combined. But some work is done without pay and without class credit. Students express a growing concern for social obligation. They demonstrate their sincerity, 1,000 strong, through their own Student Volunteer Services program. Awareness is an academic responsibility too. Much of what his professor is able to contribute depends on the student's own attitude toward learning.
Well, you have to remember that education is a two-way street. Socrates was an inspired teacher, then he had Plato for a pupil.
Increased student input is part of the flexibility toward which Ball State is moving today. Freshmen can avoid duplication of high school courses by passing special tests. New aspirations of young people are met with experimental concepts of teaching. At Ball State's Living and Learning Center, groups of freshmen and sophomores apply creative ideas to innovative classroom projects, and even to the walls. Yet most of a student's life is not spent in the classroom, laboratory, and library. Many of his new impressions are formed in other ways.
We feel that living in a residence hall at Ball State University is a very important aspect of a student's life. It is a very important part of education. You'll find at Ball State University a professional faculty as directors of residence halls. We feel that adjustment to life is found by living and working with others.
Cindy Nash and Peg Morgan didn't know each other when they were classmates at a large city high school. They met as freshmen at Ball State. Residence hall and classroom come together with informal talks by faculty members.
I don't think so at all. I tell my classes that I think they should go to a show the night before a class. I really do.
Do they?
Not many.
Do they pass the test?
Some.
When a test has been announced, but the professor hasn't said anything about as to the type it is it all right for a student to ask the professor more about the test?
Tests are much too often used as a control for discipline and so forth, and they shouldn't be. I think you as a student should know exactly when your tests are going to be, exactly what kind it's going to be, exactly what's expected of you, and then when you finish, you know exactly how you performed.
How do you feel about, as an instructor, about pop quizzes? Because it doesn't seem as if the consensus would be what it would be as if you would study for a test.
I feel very strongly that they're bad. Virtually always bad. Well, a pop quiz is used by a teacher to control and not to see what one has learned. And if the teacher needs this type of control, I think they should examine themselves a little more.
The substance of campus life is molded into human values. Some are long-range, individual roadmaps for the years ahead. Other concerns are of the moment.
I think unlimited visiting hours would cause a reduction in studying hours.
I have never lived in the dorms, and therefore visiting hours have never affected me.
Personally, as a student at Ball State, I don't feel there should be any restrictions on housing, because if a student is mature enough to leave home and go to college, then I believe he's mature enough to make his choice where he can live.
We make our own rules in our dorm, so I feel that we should let anyone use our meal ticket in the dorm when we're not using it.
Well, I'll be graduating soon, and I don't have a job yet, but placement is working with me, and we're lining something up.
Helping the student become his own thought maker. One professor calls it plugging into the student's desire for relevance, showing how academics tie in with realities of living.
We're making strides to humanize education, to work with students in an atmosphere of classroom interchange rather than classroom dictatorship. And it's very effective. It works.
This is a final examination, a television production prepared and presented by students in a class combining the studies of art, literature, and music. The imaginative perspectives of children test the theories of future teachers who are studying the psychology of early childhood. There are no wild claims of perfection. Not all students respond to new techniques of teaching, and many long-established methods continue to best satisfy certain educational needs at Ball State. Individual curriculum counseling provides careful guidance for each student to choose the program that stimulates his personal academic growth.
I've asked for special courses of work and received them in the areas of biology like ichthyology, mammalogy, undergraduate research. These names I wouldn't even recognize in my freshman year, but now they're my special fields of interest.
Well, I have observed for about 2 years, but this is my first experience of really working right with a child. At first I felt like, well, I was scared, you know, because you really don't know what they're going to do, but you want to get language into them, and you just want them to respond to you. Whatever response they give to you, then you makes you feel good inside.
You know, for a long time in college, you think only about college. I mean, graduating. But then one day you realize that you are going to graduate and have to get a job. That's a little scary at first. Placement service is really great. I've spent a lot of time in the library over there researching job opportunities. And I'm going to have some interviews soon. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to find a job in the field I've been studying.
Robert Benchley once wrote that the whole concept of fishing changes when viewed from the vantage point of the fish. Each new perspective carries forward man's personal development. Now, you are in college only a short time in relation to your lifespan. In that time, will you learn to look at yourself, at books, at plants, at charts, at oscilloscopes, and at other people, and consider them all before drawing your own conclusions? That is the objective of Ball State University. We are pretty sure now that this is a sphere. Well, almost a sphere. And we're counting on the youth of America to discover still new perspectives, to continue solving its problems.